Hi, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested. Not too long ago, I finished up with this beautiful Corona 3 portable typewriter, and I finally have the rubber back. So it's got a brand new platen, brand new feed roller, and it types very well. I love it. But it occurred to me that since this is a little different than most of your typewriters, that it would be worth spending a little bit of time talking about certain aspects of it. In particular, how to properly store it and how to change the ribbon on it. The reason this is important is because doing it incorrectly can cause damage to the typewriter, to the finish, possible damage to the case, and it deserves to be taken care of. So the first thing I want to point out is how the locking system on this typewriter works. So first we have the uppercase, the shift, and then we have the figure shift. Since the way this typewriter works, there are 3 characters on each slug, an upper, a middle, and a lower. So the lower is the lowercase, the middle is the uppercase, and the figures are the numbers and glyphs. Now, this particular typewriter, because it's a folder, there are certain things you need to pay attention to when you secure the typewriter. And you'll note that we have a caps lock key. We have the same key operating a figure lock. I don't know why you would need the figure lock unless you're doing accountant sort of work, but it's there. One interesting aspect of this is if I press the caps lock it, and then I press the figure and unlock it, the caps key will come back up, but the figure won't go down further because there's a catch on the other side keeping it in place. An interesting feature for this particular typewriter that I think was well considered. So let's talk about storage. The reason I point this out is because this serves another function. When the shift keys are released and you press this, you will see that it goes underneath a little notch right here. Okay, so let me shift this for you again. You can see that little corner over here that keeps it from shifting. Now, why is that important? Well, let me show you. So zoom back out, undo this, and let me fold the typewriter. And the first thing that you're going to see is that the typewriter lifts up as I do this, because the weight on the springs back here is gone. So that means that it's out of position, and it will, if I push it down, you can see here up front, the platen will move around, and that will cause wear on the frame here and could potentially damage the mechanism. So if I push this lock in and then I fold it down, the shift is held down and the platen can't move. So the mechanism is nice and well protected with the lock in place. The second thing you need to pay attention to is the paper fingers here. So if you'll notice, down here, there's a little chip on the frame, and that's very common for these typewriters. The reason for that is because these fingers here get positioned in such a way, because they usually have to be towards the very edge of the paper for it to let you type, that they can come down and impact the frame of the typewriter. So it's these rollers, and more particularly the little protrusions in front of them, that you can see here, that are causing that. So to keep your typewriter safe, to protect its finish, what you should do is either move these all the way out, or you should move them somewhere past about 10 and 70. I usually like to keep them right around there. Then when you fold them, you'll notice that they will fit in these little gaps here, or they will end up between the space bar and the first row of letters. So there, no damage to the finish. And I can come back with something like a little enamel paint pen, put a couple of little dots here, let that dry out, and then I can follow it up in a day or so with a gentle rub from a paper towel to shine it up a bit without rubbing it off and get it to blend in. So nice little quick way to patch. Now, there, stowing it in a case is very easy. And in fact, you don't even have to remove this from the case in order to store it. So let me set this aside for a minute and grab the case. And you can see I'm fortunate enough to have the original cleaning brush and vial here. In this vial is a little oiler. That's what this is. So it's meant to collect a little bit of a drop of oil to allow you to lubricate the typewriter at the appropriate points. Obviously it's empty, and I intend to keep it that way because it's not needed for that purpose anymore, because we have purpose-built oil cans for that. So here we have supports and a little flap up front to allow you to use it without actually removing it from the case. So if this hangs over the edge of a table, it will tend to hang down and free your hands. Otherwise, you're usually holding your hands up high enough anyway, that's not a problem. So we take the typewriter, we put it back in here. So there's a little hole right here, as you can see, that goes over that, and then the back should slip down on its own. And now it's nice and secure and it won't move. So I can lift it back up, and if I want to take it off, usually it's the front that you're going to take up first. I put the front in because it helped to guide the back in place. Now, folding the typewriter over with the lock engaged, slide this out of the way of the camera arm, locking the case, and everything is just fine. Now you're ready to take your typewriter wherever you want to go. Now I recommend, when you're carrying these things, to keep a finger on the open side of it, on the other side from where the handle is attached, just because some of these old locks tend to fail and you don't want your typewriter ending up on the ground. So just a little tip from me. So let me get this out again. Very simple. Lift it out. Take the case, set it aside. Unfold the typewriter. Unlock it, and you're ready to go. That's all it takes to make use of it. Now, let's talk about changing the ribbon. So on this particular typewriter, one thing to note is that there is no automatic ribbon reverse. What happens is you have these two little thumb screws, and the ribbon drive is driven in both directions at the same time. So the way to make it engage is to tighten the thumb screw on one and to keep it a little loose on the other. And the one that's tight will be the one that accumulates the ribbon. And you can see it turning here just slightly. And if you need to reverse it, you loosen the one and tighten the other, and then you can see it's now going the other direction. But because there's no automatic ribbon reverse, one of the things that happens is when it gets to the end of the ribbon, it will just simply stop moving. Now we can simulate that by tightening both of these. And that's why you have to be sure that you don't have them both tight or both loose. If they're both loose, nothing's going to happen. If they're both tight, when you get, eventually it will just stop advancing because it can't move. So when you reach the end of the ribbon, that is what will in effect happen. You'll see that the typewriter will just stop. And if you haven't noticed it running low, you can see the amount of ribbon left here. If you haven't noticed it running low, that will be a clear signal it's time to change direction. So, let me show you now how to replace this. And the reason I do this is because this is a somewhat different setup than other typewriters. And you'll see when I pull this off, and it has this little guide here, and then the usual shift it up, lock it, and jam a couple of keys so that you can get to the ribbon lift and set it red. Lift it up, slide it down, pull it back, and you're away from the type guide. Now, you'll notice that there is no bottom to this ribbon spool. That is what the ribbon cup is for. So, to put this on, you have to have these ribbons, these ribbon spools. You can't substitute. The other thing you'll notice is that there's an S-wind. So it goes on the top of one, on the bottom of the other. And that is because of the way the ribbon drive operates. So it's a little bit different than other typewriters where you'd want the ribbon to be coming off the same side. So the first thing I need to do is get all this off. And that is going to be very simple. This is a dead ribbon, so I'm just going to cut it. And I'm going to just going to allow it to spool off. And it is attached with a little clip. So now, what I'm going to do, put my fingernail on one side of that clip, and a screwdriver on the other, and I'm going to pop it off. Now the ribbon is free. And I'm going to take time to clean up the gunk on the spool, notably a little brass oxide. In fact, let me get a little alcohol to do a proper job of this. There you go, one clean spool. Now I need to do the other one. That I'm going to send down into the trash can. And here we are with that. Get rid of the other ribbon. Keep the clip handy. A screwdriver out. Pop the clip off. A little cleaning. Carve because it's got a good deal of gunk on it. And here, I have a little problem because all the gunk on the spool has taken away the paint. So it's not a result of me carving on the spool, it just came off because of all the oxide that was present. So let me pause here so I can clean this up and repaint it. Now, repainting this was not about color. It's about trying to protect it from further oxidation. So the paint here acts as protective coating. Now, next is to put a new ribbon on. Now this ribbon here is your standard 1/2 inch ribbon But you'll note that this spool is much smaller than this one, so I'm not going to be able to get all of that on. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the eyelet because it serves absolutely no function on this particular typewriter except to take up room and get in the way. The next thing I need to do is to take the end of the ribbon and clip it in place. And I'm going to try to get a little past the end of this, not a great deal, but just enough to make sure that the clip doesn't slip off the end of the ribbon and therefore not hold correctly. And I'm going to make sure that the ribbon is all the way down on the spool. And small fingers helps here. So let me take a little loop. Take the clip, put it on, and there we go. So there's a little bit of an extra bit of ribbon here, but it's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on this spool. I'm going to take the thumb screw, put it in place just to hold the spool on. I'm not going to tighten it down. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to wind on enough ribbon so that this is full. It will take a little bit, but it won't take terribly long. I'm tightening it here to try to keep the ribbon spool from wobbling, just to make it wind easier. I'll zoom in here so you can see that it's getting very near the end. All right, I'm going to call that good. I don't want it completely full. And I have that much left on this other ribbon spool here. You can just see there's a little bit of a gap. So I almost have enough for another of these typewriters, which is fortunate because I have another of these typewriters. So let me go ahead and cut this loose. Get the other spool. And remember the S-bend. So it needs to attach from this side, not this side. So it needs to come in front. Do the same thing I did on the other side. Pull a little bit of loop. Get my clip. Yep. Missed. Wasn't quite all the way down. All the way down. Wind up some of the slack. And if you do end up putting it on the wrong way, don't worry. Just undo the thumb screws and just wind it on to the other spool, and it will be fine. So you'll be able to see what direction it needs to go by watching how it moves when you start typing. It'll be pretty clear that you've made a little bit of an error. But it will still work as long as the one that's wound the wrong direction is the supply spool instead of the take-up spool. Now, need to get it back through the type guide. So what we do is we take it up from above, slide it into the V, scrunch it down, and pull it back up, tighten it up and make sure it's in the guides, and there we have it. Now, this is the supply spool, so that needs to be loose. This is the take-up spool, so that needs to be tight. Start typing, and I now have a fresh, properly working typewriter. Get a piece of scrap paper here. Yeah. There you have it. One fresh ribbon on a Smith Corona Portable 3 typewriter, and I'm ready to get going. Once again, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested.